Start record on. I can hear you.
Cool.
Alright, guys. Welcome to Dad Influence. We got a guest today. Are you going anonymous or do you want people to know who you are?
You can definitely tell them my name. I am Alex Jones.
No,
He is
Barack
Alex
Obama.
Jones. The Alex Jones. Just kidding. A Alex Jones.
No, he's the Alex Jones.
I'm the great value Alex.
Great value Alex Jones. Alright. But we're going to have a nice little conversation today. We're going to use abortion as the topic. Apparently, we figured that the best people to have such a great conversation on a topic would be three men. So
You got Jim Bro, a hippie, and Alex Jones.
yeah, but what's great is everybody here is on different sides. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. I was having a conversation with both of these gentlemen before now, and a lot of people think it's crazy where I'm at because I would say technically in the middle, because I see that the argument as an argument that's not really, both sides aren't arguing the same point of contention. You know, the pro-choice argument is for a freedom-based argument, which I completely agree with, and the pro-life argument is a life-preserving argument, which I also completely agree with. So that puts me in a very weird position in the middle, where I say that before it is a person, it's no different than any other birth control, and it should be up to discretion whenever, even to convenience, just because you feel like it.
Yeah.
After it's a person, it should only be for a medical necessity, i.e. self-defense, to keep yourself from dying. That's basically where I really see it, and it's the same if it was a 6-month-old child or a 18-year-old child. That's the only excuse you have to kill, is if it's about to kill you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I would say that that's consistent no matter what. If it's alive, it's alive. It's a person, it's a person. It doesn't matter. So, and prior to that, it's somebody's personal choice whether or not they want to have a child, or whether or not what they want to do to prevent having a child, and birth control is birth control.
I agree.
So that's where you kind of that's where it's like so I couldn't firmly say pro-life, pro-choice. I just say that post it being a person, I don't think it's up to your choice. Before that, I do.
I think we need to tell every young man out there right now this one thing: wear a fucking condom, bro.
Oh yeah, dude. Like
for being real, that's like
I'm gonna be real.
I think
truthful here. I was a man whore all the way from like 16 years old till I got married. Well, I mean, with my wife that I married, I was a pretty big man whore, and I had a lot of sex. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to say I never had to have an abortion, and I never had any issues with scares of pregnancies. I don't have any unwanted children.
Yeah.
Not because... Why? Because, I mean, there's 906 ways to prevent children.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
Not rocket science, for sure.
So, and I took that responsibility myself. So men do have a responsibility to take, to figure out a way to prevent pregnancy as well.
Yeah. I feel like it needs to be said out.
Yeah, for sure. Now, none of this should ever be put all on the woman.
No.
Right. Well, and on the flip side, also for the ladies out there, you got to make sure that you're protecting yourself if you don't want to, become pregnant. Because I mean, talking about abortion as a different form of birth control, it doesn't take away the fact that the whole abortion process can be extremely traumatizing for the women. They still have all of the same hormonal reactions that they would have if they were pregnant and had kept the pregnancy, but they, do not have the baby to show for it. lack of better words.
Yeah, and that's something that me and him also talked about earlier. Was saying that
I can be the cause of an abortion only.
Yeah, like a lot of people don't know this, but after
real.
several abortions, you can have issues having children in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, but there's just like there's other arguments surrounding this that I completely agree with a lot of these women that are pro-choice that they put out there where they're like, look, I can't just go to a doctor and say, hey, I want my tube tied. Why? Why can't you? You should be able to. Why can't you just go to a doctor and say, hey, I'm never going to have kids? You know what I mean? And if you change your mind, that's what adoption's for.
Right. Which you need to adopt.
Which, there's plenty of kids that need to be adopted, so boom shakalaka.
Right.
If that mistake is made, it can be fixed. So that's one of those things is like, in my opinion, I think that's crazy. It's the same thing with a guy. I feel like if a guy wants to go in there and say, hey, I want a vasectomy, they should just give it to him. No questions asked.
I tried to ask for one.
Yeah, I hear a lot of them won't do it unless you have 2 kids.
Right.
I do see it from kind of the perspective, and I know this is thought of to be kind of unlikely from a conservative, but from a collectivist perspective, if there was some, unknown, insane tragedy where a massive amount of our population was cold, I can absolutely see the perspective of not allowing young people to get a vasectomy or to get their tubes tied. Basically just for that reason, because if it ever comes down to like the actual survival of our species, that's gonna really fucking suck if we, have all of our young people, neutered basically.
I hear what you're saying, and it sounds good, but I would also argue that even if it comes, and this is something I would always say, if it comes down to the survival of our species, we always have to realize that means that there will be a lot of people willing to do it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we should not put the survival of our species, basically, we shouldn't put the survival of our species above us deserving to survive as a species.
Right.
So, like, at the end of the day, I still think, even if you have a situation like that, you should allow people to have children if they want to. Because that was the whole Handmaid's Tale thing that everybody brings up. If you go and you look at the Handmaid's Tale, that was the situation why they excused, treating women like that. Only a very small amount of women could have babies.
It really comes.
So they started enslaving those women to be serial baby makers.
It really comes down to the choice.
You know what I mean? That's what happened in that book. You know what I mean? And like I said, necessity is always the call of the tyrant.
That is true. Yeah. There's an emergency, there's a necessity, and we have to enforce our will on you.
Right. And necessity is always the call of the tyrant. It doesn't matter if we're forcing people to have sex with people for the survival of our race, we don't deserve to survive.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but that's true.
So what do you think about pandas?
Fuck them.
Fuck them.
No,
I'm team people.
No. Hear me out. Hear me out. If they can't realize that their race of whatever they are, big raccoons there are, some shit, that they need to fuck to survive, and they're not fucking each other to survive, why are we helping them surviving?
That's the whole point, man. Why are we preserving them? What do they do?
If someone doesn't want to reproduce,
right,
are you gonna start forcing them? Like,
same.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is in my opinion, like I said, it's not right. It should be willing. It should be something that wants to do that. To me, that's wrong. It's one of those. It's the same situation. It's like, which brings us to the point. I feel like what's funny is we all kind of come to the point of one of the big arguments on the pro-choice that a lot of people say is like people just want to force women to have babies. I think we're all in agreement that we don't want to force women to have babies.
All right.
Absolutely not.
You see what I'm saying? Even if the situation was that it would extinct our race, I would say even still, we shouldn't force women to have babies.
All right.
Even in that situation. If that's the case, then que sera, sera. Time to go quietly into the dark. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting some fancy McDonald's from being a wife.
But yeah.
So what is the leftist and the call's opinion of abortion?
What is your big opinion there? He's asking what is the Juju trademark opinion.
I came to my opinion with this one question I asked myself.
Okay.
I can't see how I can force a 14-year-old girl to have a baby if she wasn't consenting with it.
Right, and that's kind of where the whole, like, when I was talking about before with the hot air balloon argument, that actually throws a wrench in that argument.
Like, that's the main reason I'm pro-choice, you know what I mean? I'm not for abortions at all. Definitely just, late plan B, you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe it should be any type of contraceptive. You know what I mean?
But that's kind of why I give that. I think that 5-week period would give a lot of, like, if you were raped.
Yeah.
I feel like you got that 5 weeks. You could go and get something done, and there you go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my point. Is the reason why I say that 5 weeks kind of seems like a good number in my opinion. It comes from the whole. That's where the brain starts to develop. That's when you start to be able to feel pain. That's when the heart starts beating because the brain is developing. That's another thing a lot of people don't realize. It was like, it's just a heartbeat. Yeah, well, you have to have a brain to have a heartbeat.
Yeah.
The brain starts the heart and keeps it beating. That's what it's called, the autonomic nervous system. Right. You know? It doesn't beat on its own. The mom isn't beating the heart. It's not from the mom's brain. Right. It's a separate, different heartbeat. So it keeps a different rhythm and everything.
Yeah, that's why I say too. Like I always say, like before it has a heart or brain. Like I don't like it at all.
And again, it's not the significance of the heart so much as it's the significance of the brain. We all know that's where the consciousness is.
I get where the right's coming from, though. I mean, I really do. Like, it's and that's kind of what
I think everybody needs to really stop and think. You know, everybody's really coming from a place that's really legitimate. Like I said,
because for me, it's still hard for me to say, be pro-choice for that reason, because it's hard for me to say you need to execute his life. You know what I mean? Because I can't see it. It's.
That's kind of a broad thing to say with where you're at on it, though, because most people wouldn't consider, stopping abortion at 5 weeks.
Yeah, because leftists are stupid, though. Because they don't see that, you know what I mean? I feel like they don't really see that shit, you know what I mean? Like, it's still a life. You guys are for life, period. Freedom. And, the right to live, the right to... grow somewhere.
Right. You can't have a whole lot of freedom.
And you're gonna really think about it like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying is it goes to and so let's kind of go to some of the deeper questions I was talking about before. So here's the real question. I think everybody could have a fun little. Like I said, we always keep arguing the wrong points of a contention. So let's stay on good points of contention to make this a really good argument. Like we said earlier, we got to the point where we found out that nobody wants to force women to have children.
Right.
So no one's on that page. So here's another part here. When does it become a life? Answer that question. When do you think? Because I said that I think it's around 5 weeks. That's where it makes sense to me.
Okay, so
where does it become a life for you? When does it go from clump of cells to life?
I mean, you want to get down to the macro to it?
Yeah, I'm asking, what do you think?
Because, you technically just kill a bunch of them when you just bust a nut, bro. You get what I mean?
So, in my opinion...
Some people...
That's kind of... So you think it's a life even before conception?
Look, it's... that's where some people...
Or person. Maybe we should use the term person. Person might be a better term. In that... deserving of human rights is what we mean.
Because some people will go down. Some people will go down to the sperm level with that shit.
And I'm asking you what your position is.
And I'm kind of right there too. You know what I mean?
Sperm?
Yes.
Damn. So you're saying you're more pro-life than some pro-lifers, kind of. In that regard.
Hear me out though. It's because when you get down to the nit grit, just about everything life is very microscopic. You know what I mean? It's like if you're so for killing life, where does it stop? You know what I mean?
Right. I feel what you're saying. It's an argument. I get it. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, like,
but I get what you're saying, and then that's where I come into the alternative question of when does it become a person that has rights?
When it becomes a person that has rights, I still say 5 weeks.
5 weeks. So you agree with where I'm at?
Yeah. I had to stop at 5 weeks.
Okay. So what about you, Alex? Where do you think it's a person deserving of rights?
I like to try and be really clear when we're discussing these things, and really clear about language also. So right now we're trying to figure out what word to use to describe as what essentially the same thing. I personally believe it becomes a person as soon as they're conceived, because that's when their own unique DNA is formed. Even, this is something I always mention when I'm in debates with people, but even Richard Dawkins, who is, an evolutionary biologist, he is pretty extreme insofar as he supports eugenics, basically intentionally aborting children that have Down syndrome and other sort of chromosomal diseases. So he supports abortion, but he will even admit that life begins at conception. There's no point in between when a child is conceived to the point where they die, when their DNA will change. They are basically an individual person from that moment on. So I do think that abortion needs to be cut back, and it needs to happen in stages. Something like 5 weeks or 6 weeks would be really helpful because it would stop a lot of abortions, but we really need to just get down to the point where people have to take responsibility for their actions. It's not so much as, telling
well, this is something me and him actually were talking about also before, was like, I don't really think anyone's really using this as a form of birth control in the way that people act like they are. Yeah. And the reason we say this is like, if you go and you look at what Plan B costs, and then you go and you look at what an abortion costs, and then you go and you look at what like regular birth controls, condoms, things like that, there's already a very high financial incentive to try to stop it before pregnancy.
Right.
So I will say that is the case. Now, whether or not that is advertised to people, that might be something that could be done better.
Right.
Because I think there are a lot of people that maybe the first abortion happens and then after that they learn their lesson and do. You know what I mean? They see how much it costs.
Right.
But
well, and also, I don't think we should ignore also the side of Big Pharma and what they play in this, because they both pay a lot of money in some circumstances and also make a lot of money from abortions.
Yeah.
Whether it's, selling them towards the scientific community, or even in some instances selling them towards the cosmetic industry for a pretty insane profit in some cases.
Yeah.
So there's
you'll find no allies to Big Pharma here.
No. What kind of leftist you think I am, man?
Like I said, this guy's a real leftist.
It's a conversation because it's relevant.
All right.
Yeah, I know. Right. We're joking.
We're fucking with it, bro.
But no, like, yeah, he's a real leftist. He's left bottom, not left top.
You're not a
Democrat. You call me a bottom bitch?
Yeah, bottom bitch.
It is kind of funny the amount of people that kind of think they're leftists, but they're actually just like your average CNN
fucking
viewer.
Fascist.
Right.
No, they're just, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
another
something about my background that I like to mention is that when I started becoming interested in politics, I skewed very far left, and probably also towards the authoritarian side of leftism. And then as I matured, learned more things about history and things like that, I started definitely leaning more towards libertarianism or anarchism. And then eventually, probably when I had my first child, definitely started leaning more conservative. But so I definitely see where the leftists are coming from on some of their arguments. I just think they're ways of getting to their goals for these things. It's never really the right way to do it.
Right, and that's kind of what I said before. I said we all need to calm the hell down and realize that a lot of our goals are common.
Like,
honestly, it's just we're not agreeing on how to get there.
I guess
it's not that anybody doesn't want people to have health care. It's just that we disagree on how to get everybody health care.
Honestly, I believe we just need to start talking down to the nitty-gritty on stuff and stop kind of pussyfooting about it too.
Yep.
It's like you kind of have to be honest about a lot of shit.
Tell people what your principles are. Like, that's something that I've said is like I love to get down and be like, look, this is what my principles are. Like, me and you had that conversation and you were like, you can't be in the middle of this argument. Yeah. And I was like, well, my principle is this. And he's like, well, you're pro-choice. And I was like, well, but my other principle is this. Well, you're pro-life. And it's like, yeah, you see what I'm saying?
I'm gonna take every argument at a time, okay?
And it's like, because like I said, to me is like, life, liberty, and property are a big deal. And I don't even have I consider myself a libertarian centrist because I don't have a problem with collective ownership of property. If you form a group and you want to own things as a group, I have no problem with that. You know what I'm saying? So I consider myself a libertarian centrist because I have no problem with what market you decide to live in. I just have a problem with force.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of think that life would be a lot better if we stopped trying to force people to live the way we want them to, and we allow people to organize the way they want. And if communism is doomed to fail, capitalists, then let it fail, and they'll come back. And if capitalism's doomed to fail, communists, then let it fail, and they'll come to you.
If I want to butt chug ayahuasca, I should.
There's no need to egg it on. There's no need to add and make it easier. You know.
Don't force me to do shit, man. Like,
right.
I'm not gonna force anyone else to do shit.
If two individuals make, if one man makes an offer and another man agrees to that offer, no one else has a right to get in between that. Period. Don't care what the offer or agreement is.
Speaking of your daddy, but not by force. That's be later.
I'm just walking around. So, my opinion and why I consider myself and why I'm usually considered by most people I talk to be extremely pro-life is because, well, first of all, I do believe that life begins at conception, but secondly is none of us would be here to have these opinions on these things if our moms had aborted us. Like, we have these opinions because we weren't aborted, and I think it's pretty crazy for us to be the people that are alive and deciding, hey, what should happen to these people that are killed? Like, that seems like a really, really bad area to get into morally. And,
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
That's kind of from the same argument of the whole, like, men shouldn't be arguing about it. Well, live people shouldn't be arguing, adults shouldn't be arguing about whether babies should be existing.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty crazy. I try to always mention that one every single time, like, one of these people says, like, it's crazy that you're a man and you have an opinion on this. It's like, it's crazy that you're alive and you have an opinion on this. Like...
yeah, but to an extent, though, it's also it's still a genetic fallacy, as me and you've talked about numerous times. It's one of those things that just because you aren't that and you haven't gone through it, you could still have empathy for the situation.
Oh, for sure.
It's like I bring up
and if you couldn't, then you would never be able to find out the situation between two people. Like, you know what I mean? Because you'd only be able to empathize with the person that you've been in situations with yourself.
Right.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean? So if you have a problem between two people, the only way to figure it out is if you were...
It's because I bring this up. It's like, it's not really touchy to me and stuff now, but it's like the whole, the sexual assault thing and stuff. Right. I tell you I was sexually assaulted at work.
Oh, yeah, I think you did one time.
Yeah. Well, I've been a few times, but we ain't getting there. And like, I'll tell women that I understand, but I can't understand at the same time. But I understand the discomfort. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I didn't feel scared, per se. I felt fucking disgusted, for sure. But I wasn't, like, scared. I'm like a 6'2" guy and, like, 210 pounds of, beef. So I wasn't scared for my life like some people were. But I can come from...
understanding the uncomfortability.
Yeah.
And I that's something me and wife was actually talking about the other day, was saying, because we have sons. All of us do here, you know? And like, there's a situation kind of brewing now to where you're getting in a weird guest culture with relationships, and it's not good for our boys growing up if you think about it.
Right.
Like, it's where, so don't get me wrong, I don't think anybody should touch anybody without their permission.
Right.
But like, it gets now down to catcalling, which, don't get me wrong, I don't think you should either harass a woman.
Yeah.
But one proposition that is ignored should be ignored.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm saying is like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, you shouldn't pester a woman.
Yeah.
But if you ask her one time and she's like, fuck off, then you should leave her alone.
Fuck off. Like,
right? But at the same time, it should be left alone on her side too, and be like, okay, well, the only way that I'll ever end up with a mate. And that was something that somebody was kind of pointing out too. I was listening to, I think it was a podcast, I don't remember where it was, but a guy was saying that, he was saying that like, these women, they dress like that, and it's not because they want attention, it's because they want attention from the men they want. And it's kind of like, it doesn't work like that. You can't just put on the attractor and only attract the men you want.
I mean,
you attract all men when you put the attractor on.
I mean, like, I think,
and then you weed through that. And it's like, men kind of understand that too. That's why we swipe right on all those apps. Just keep swiping on every single person.
And then when you
that way you get all the ones that you want, and then you fiddle through those.
Yeah. Like, we're kind of
doing the same thing.
We're kind of vain too. I don't know why dudes. I don't know who wants to admit that dudes are pretty fucking vain themselves, man. Like,
right.
Like,
yeah, it's like, we're not hating on you. I'm not mad at you for.
It's pretty crazy because like when I was in middle school, like me and my boys and like the girls that we were friends with, we were all run around and like slap each other's asses and stuff like that.
But that's middle school.
How the hell are you supposed to do that in today's like social climate? Like,
well, the thing about it is though, is when you were in middle school, that was all agreed upon as okay.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that was cool. You know what I mean? All the people in your group was like, all right, we're doing this. You know what I mean? So it became an okay thing to do. And that's kind of the thing is what that's kind of the point I'm making is it's the consent that makes it okay. But the problem is you have to be able to ask for the consent.
Right.
That's where I'm saying it's like, and I agree that you shouldn't harass for the consent, but just the asking of the consent should not be considered harassment.
There's a difference
between,
between,
you know, like fucking childhood fun go with having to ask for like permission to do things that are hilarious. Like that sucks.
Bro, it's just,
it's one of those things that, like, again, when you're talking about childhood and you're talking about that situation, the consent is almost implied, and then if it's misunderstood, you stop from there,
right?
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and again, it goes from the question of is it harassment or is it the one time?
All right.
A harassment is a repetitive action. You know what I mean?
The Elon Musk story.
Now, if you just pull your, I heard that they say that he just pulled his dick out. Like, that one's a little bit too far.
That's excessive.
You don't just pull your dick out.
Right.
I didn't hear that about it. I heard that.
I thought that's what I heard. I don't know, but I have zero knowledge on this situation, so to be really commenting on it is bad.
That's the thing that sucks about these types of allegations, because like apparently this happened 6 or 7 years ago. And then literally 2 days after the guy says that he's decided he's a Republican, she's all of a sudden like, oh yeah, that happened.
Right.
And there's a non-disclosure agreement, so we'll never fucking know what actually happened.
Right.
Like, literally, never.
Oh.
It is weird though.
Oh.
Yeah, it happens every time.
Right.
Every single time. But,
what works?
Yeah, I guess it does. Lecturing people for things that happened fucking 6 years ago.
Well, I mean, you know, back in the day, you used to control people with cheating on their wife, and that stopped working. Mm-hmm. And so then they started doing the whole harassment and pedophilia thing.
Yeah.
True. I guess it's just progressing.
Yeah.
Eventually people just start accusing each other of being like murderers and like puppy killers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. It's kind of like when you see these third world countries and they're like trying somebody for corruption, and you're like, well, I know he's corrupt, but I know that's not really why he's getting tried for corruption.
Give me a second. Everyone hold up.
Alright, ready to rock?
Right, go ahead. Damn.
Lost the internet. Alright, we're ready to sign off. Alright, guys. Thanks for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
To random rabble.
Great value Alex Jones came in with a really great argument. We appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to say to the people? Alex?
Stay classy.
Stay classy, my friends. Alright.
No, I'm staying assy.
All right,
good, Alex.
Like I said, we'll have to have him back here soon, guys. We'll have him back to talk about another topic.
I like Alex Jones. He's not that crazy.
Yeah, having a
the media
be telling us Alex Jones super crazy, but he's not that crazy.
They're lying about you.
Lying, man.
Chemicals in the water that are turning the frogs gay, though.
That is true.
That is actually true.
That is true.
I think I watched the same video, man.
They are actually doing that.
All right, see you guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you.